Welcome, everyone, to Hit the Books. I'm Thomas Casale with my man, Corbie. CC, how's it going today?
Yeah, I'm in Vegas, so I'm probably going to sound a little more Knish-like, but we're trying. Zach's on the back end trying to make me sound decent, so we're going to give it a shot.
All right, sounds good. Cannot wait to dive into the big Saturday of college basketball. First, this Hit the Book segment on the Hammer Betting Network is presented by Circa Sports. Bet like you're a pro with the world's largest sports book right at your fingertips. Circa Sports. Experience big at bets with the highest betting limits, better money line splits with the lowest hold percentage, customer service, and more. Sports betting on the go has never been easier. Now you can do it all. Just download, fun, bet like a pro anywhere's in Nevada. You get your new bookie now at circasports.com. You're in Las Vegas there, CC. I am not. So you can bet at Circa Sports. You can get all the openers, everything you want there. How's it going over there? What's it like? What are you doing in Vegas to begin with? You just making a trip?
Yeah, so yesterday was my 26th birthday, and I'm quickly getting old.
Happy birthday.
Came out, headed to Circa tonight. We're going to bet some futures. I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, just enjoying. It's less of a business trip, more of just I love this city. Its pace is unlike any other. So I've been playing a whole bunch of poker, played poker till God doesn't want to talk about how early this morning, and then got some sleep, check out some college basketball. So ready for Saturday.
Yeah, I like how you said you're getting old. I'm almost double you. So that's my birthday's coming up in April. Now, you want to be old. That's old. So happy 26th birthday. I can tell you something, CC. Going from your 20s to your 30s, no big deal. It's that 30s to your 40s, man. That's that's when it hits you. That's when you have to start slowing down. I can't live your kind of lifestyle anymore. But listen, we're got a big Saturday slate of games. Let's go back, though. On Thursday night, Gonzaga lost at home. I think I was a teenager the last time they lost at home. They do not lose at home. They were upset by Loyola Marymount. Now, CC, this is not a great Gonzaga team, right? But a while back, after a couple losses, they were 25-1 to win it all. So I hit it just based purely on value with Gonzaga. I don't think this is a great team by any means. I know you want to discuss this team both in the futures market and on Saturday against a pretty bad Pacific team.
Yeah, so I think that it's a perfect buy low spot. Gonzaga, I believe I heard a stat that it was 75 games in a row at home, as you discussed. I could be wrong there, but it was a crazy number. So I think
76, I believe.
76. So just something insane. But this Gonzaga team has a ton of talent. They have not looked as good as they have in years past, but this is the same team that beat Alabama by 10 in Birmingham. They scored 100 points on an Alabama team who is rated 4th in the country right now. So you can't say too many bad things about Gonzaga. The main thing is for me what do they get up for? They know they're going to the tournament. They have a near 100% buy or bid to get in. They're going. And when you see this team, even if they're an 8 or a 9 seed, let's say hypothetically, they're not going to be. But if they were, that is the worst possible 8 or 9 draw you could get. So, I'm going to go tonight to Circa and bet a Gonzaga 22-1 future, I believe. Is it 22-1, Zach?
Yep, 22-1 at Circa.
Yeah, so Circa's 22-1. It says FanDuel's 34, but I'm not sure how refreshed that is. That seems much higher than market, but nonetheless, 22-1 is Circa, and I think Gonzaga has a team. Drew Timme didn't come back for no reason. He knows the final goal, and there are a few teams that I feel could probably beat Gonzaga, but in a tournament as crazy as March, I think you're getting a really good number here. I think UCLA is another team that really catches my eye. UCLA has a really good basketball team. They showed it last night, and they're going to continue. They play Arizona on Saturday. I believe you want to talk about that one, but that'll be a really interesting game and possibly a buy low spot. Weak buy low spot on a UCLA team that maybe the market will shift a little bit if they lose to Arizona, but they've looked great all year. So I don't know how well of a buy low you're going to get on that team.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, UCLA been one of the most consistent teams in the country. Had a really tough game at Arizona State, but those are the games I look at. That's a game that not only is it a trap spot to begin with, it's a tough spot. But Arizona State played well, and UCLA was able to pull away late and get that win. So I agree with you on UCLA. Really quick on Gonzaga, though. You say what you want about the Zags. They play it in the non-conference, and they play everybody. So if you look at what they did this year, they beat Michigan State. They beat kind of a down Kentucky team. They beat a good Xavier squad. You mentioned they beat Alabama. They lost to Baylor by 1 in a game that I bet that I thought that actually Gonzaga should have won. I had Baylor in that game. And then they got blown out by Purdue and Texas. Going ahead and looking ahead to the tournament, what kind of team would you not want to see Gonzaga play?
Yeah, I think a Purdue type team, just somebody who is going to give Timmy fits because he orients most of this offense. Let's see, 27% of the shots come through him. He's touching the ball in 30% of the possessions. So somebody like an Edey who can basically shut down Drew Timme and stop the flow of this offense. If you watch the Alabama game, Gonzaga is just really meticulous on back cuts, screens. They've done it for years, and we've seen it over and over again. But they are so meticulous that when they're thrown out of order, they really have an issue. The issue with that to me is what teams have somebody like a Zach Edey that can just throw Timme off his game. I think Houston is first in the nation right now, highest futures market, and I don't think that they match up very well with Gonzaga. Tennessee, another team, I don't think they would have a very good time playing Gonzaga. UCLA would look decent. I think Alabama matched up decent, but it's just their centers weren't as powerful. Purdue's a tough matchup for Gonzaga, basically anytime that they get them. Connecticut, I don't know. Kansas is decent. There's just a whole bunch of teams that I think Gonzaga, in most cases, has 5 guys that know how to play basketball together better than the other team. So they're not more talented. Drew Timme can get shut down by a Zach Edey, but whenever you can give Timme the ball and let him facilitate an offense, this team just looks well. They click. In that Alabama game, I don't have the number in front of me, but I bet they shot somewhere near 50% from the field. They looked great. They were getting the shots that they wanted at all times.
Yeah, and like we're saying, this is purely a numbers based. Gonzaga is usually 6-7-1 to win it all, right? So now you're down in the 22-25-1 range. They shot 62% against Alabama in that game. Alabama actually shot 65%, close to 66%. The difference there was Alabama went 8 for 25 from beyond the arc. And as we've seen from Alabama over the last few years, is when they're missing from deep, they're going to keep shooting from deep, right? But I agree with you. That's kind of an even matchup. Good number though, right? Like it's I think sometimes people get too stuck on teams and miss an opportunity at a good number. A good example would be North Carolina last year, where they didn't look good for large stretches of the season, but man, they had talent and it showed in the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I think the main thing for me is always going to be talent output. So I find myself betting on I really care less on what the teams have done in the recent future, less of how their overall shape is currently, and more the talent pool. Like, can this team, if I was playing pickup basketball, which team would I rather have? Purdue's current team or Gonzaga's current team? And in most cases, Edey would be hell in a pickup basketball game. But in most cases, the other 4 players, I'm taking Gonzaga. So I think that they have the talent output. They're super smart basketball players. So 22-1, I like picking up some here. Again, like you said, it's a numbers game. Do I think Gonzaga is going to win the national championship? It's going to be very hard. Probably not. But it's a good time to pick them up and build a portfolio of just some futures for the college basketball market.
Okay, sounds good. Now let's turn our attention to Saturday. Now we're doing this show about 5 Eastern time. It's a little early. Not all the lines are out. We'll look at what the Ken Palm has as the projected number. Let's look at a couple of games we're going to be on. I know you mentioned Ohio State, Iowa to me as we came on the air. That's an interesting game, but you actually like the total there.
Yeah, Ohio State has played pretty slow. I'm pulling up my numbers now, but I believe that one opened, if Zach pull it up, I believe it's 156.5 right now. And if so, let's see. Yeah, 156.5. I like the under there. I think that this, and it sucks to say because this Iowa team is always going to play the same pace that they've played. They're 57th in the nation in tempo, but I just don't really trust in this talent output. Chris Murray is basically all of their offense. I just don't know how much I believe in this team. Also, I think Ohio State has the pieces overall to stay in front of most of the guys. This isn't like a one-sided matchup by any means. They're actually projected to win this game per Ken Palm. I didn't look at the line there, but 5-point spread. So I don't know. I feel like the team with the less pace. Okay, so the team with the less pace is favored to win this game at home. I think Ohio State does everything they can to keep this in their wheelhouse. They don't want to play to 75, 76 possessions. They just played 72 to Nebraska, and they lost. So they know what happens when they get into these high pace. They lost to San Diego State in a 72 possession game. So if this game goes high, they lose to Iowa, and if not, they get a home win. So I think that we see Ohio State holding the pace game, and I like the under 156.5. If we're going to lock it in, Zach, didn't see what books have it, but the Ohio State Iowa under 156.5.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, this game is tonight, but what'd you think of that Buffalo Toledo total 170? I mean, that opened
crazy.
at one. I mean, boy, you got to have not just pace, you got to have a lot of made shots to hit 170. So yeah, when these numbers are this high, like you said, Iowa, yeah, they're going to try to get that pace going, but they also have to make shots.
Yeah, similarly, I saw 170 last night, and I was like, man, when's the last time I saw a number open this high? I screenshotted it. It's on my phone, and I was just dumbfounded. Then I checked the lines before we hopped on the show. Alabama, Missouri's open to 169. So it's modern day basketball, I guess. We want to push these tempos. I think 169 for Alabama, Missouri is significantly too high. Still 169. I think that number is pretty insane, but I also don't want to get in front of the train that is Alabama basketball. I've been wrong on Missouri basically all year, so that's not one that I feel too confident getting in front of. But gun to head, that number is, like 169. You have to play fast and good all game. So
yeah, I got in front of that Alabama train the other night, and I had Vanderbilt 9.5. They were down 8 points, and of course had to foul with 15 seconds left because apparently college basketball has some 10-point shot somewheres that you can shoot. So I kind of agree with you. Like Alabama, it reminds me like in the NFL when the Christmas Eve when the Raiders covered against the 49ers, like sooner or later, right? You're playing the odds. Boy, they got to play a bad game. You would think one of these nights, don't you?
It's bad because I live near Tuscaloosa. I'm supposed to be an Alabama fan. Love Nate Oates, great coach, great guy. I've only heard great things about him, but man, I just hate this Alabama basketball team this year. And then I tell every person that asks me, they're like, "Oh, it's our year this year," because all of my friends are Tide fans. Like, it's our year this year, and I'm like, they're not as good as they look. Like, don't fall for it. But they continue to impress. 4th in the nation, 16-2. Man, I might be wrong here. I don't think that their talent pool was as high. I think Brandon Miller is one of the better players in the nation, obviously. But other than that, like Quinterly was good last year. He really hasn't done a ton this year. And then it just falls off pretty fast. It's transfers from lower level schools or guys who just their name haven't been as big and broad as a team that's rated 4th in the nation should be, I feel like. So maybe I'm a hater, but I don't like Alabama at the current moment. I wish they were like 10, 12, 14th in the nation, and then I could be a Bama fan.
All right, well, you live near Alabama. I live near Syracuse, right? And I am a Syracuse fan. So I'm going to do something I almost never do. And that's bet on the orange because I don't like this team. I don't like that they only play one style of defense no matter who they're playing. I think their coach was a good coach, but he's been around too long. I don't think Joe Girard should be your top scorer. So there's a lot I don't like about the Syracuse team. But going into tomorrow's matchup, Georgia Tech's down a couple of guys. They're down Lance Terry and Tristan Maxwell's not going to be there. And the other thing I see, the way you attack that zone, some people think you want to just shoot threes. You look at North Carolina, you look at, what Pitt used to do against them. They get it to the foul line and they play inside out. Now, Georgia Tech doesn't shoot many threes. They shoot a lot of 2-pointers. Syracuse has a good two-point defense. So I don't think you should shoot a lot of threes against the zone, but you have to shoot some threes to get them to stop sagging in. And I don't think Georgia Tech matches up well with the Syracuse team. So the other thing is Syracuse can be a bad rebounding team, but especially on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think Georgia Tech's a great offensive rebounding team. It's going to be around a pick 'em. Give me Syracuse. I already regret just coming out of my mouth. I regret saying it.
All right, so we'll take the orange there. Yeah, so a little side note, I was a Syracuse fan my entire life growing up, just as a little kid. And it'll probably age you more than it does me, but like Johnny Flynn was like my lower level growing up, one of my favorite players to watch, just absolutely explosive for the height and played basketball the right way. I think that they have a couple players. What is his name? Judah Mintz?
Yep.
Plays.
Mintz is good.
He's quick. He reminds me. he's starting to get the reins. I also think they have another really good basketball player who doesn't get Samir Torrance. In the game that I
Mhm.
watched him, I was really impressed by his ability to score. I think that's the biggest issue with Syracuse is they don't have, as you said, Gerard should probably not be your leading scorer. He's taking almost 29% of their shots.
Right.
I mean, he's shown that he can do it for a few years now, but I would agree that talent level, he's not the guy that if you could choose anybody in the nation to take 29% of your shots, I'm never one time choosing Joe Girard.
No.
And so I think other people need to take their shots, and I was impressed by Torrance's ability to find his own shot whenever he was in the game I watched. God, what game was that? There's no telling. I was watching some crazy games, but yeah, I like Syracuse as a team. I used to love Jim Boeheim. I would agree. Basketball has changed. Like, it's unfortunate, but the turnovers here, we've seen some greats leave. So I think it's about that time for him as well.
Yeah, no. And listen, Joe Girard grew up around where I live. He played at my high school, hung 50 on him a few times. I root for Joe Girard. But my argument has always been he's a guy you want to be part of the offense. He's not a guy, he was recruited by Michigan and Syracuse. If he was at Michigan, he's not taking 29% of the shots. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So I agree with you 100% there. I just think this is a good spot for Syracuse. I think Georgia Tech, boy, talk about a guy who might be on his way out. That's my play. It's going to be around a pick 'em. I take Syracuse as a small favorite. You have the under in Iowa, Ohio State. Now there's a couple other big games on the board I want to get your thoughts on. One we're going to get to in a couple minutes, especially. But the UCLA, you mentioned them. The reason I love UCLA in the tournament is they can adapt and play any style. You want to play slow, they'll play slow. You want to play fast, they'll play fast. Well, they're going to play fast tomorrow because they're playing Arizona.
Sure.
In Arizona. Ken Pom makes this. They actually make UCLA a 3-point favorite on the road in Arizona. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, so Zach has it pulled up. It looks like 1.5, 2, basically.
Oh,
I don't know.
There it is.
Yeah, so Arizona's a pretty tough team. They're just a tough team to figure out overall. They have 3 losses, but they just played some weird games. Like they got absolutely blown out by Oregon. They lost by 13 to a Washington State team who I'm not too impressed by. And then they just play. It's a team that just makes no sense. They beat Tennessee by 5. They have a ton of size. So what can UCLA do to the size? The hope here is that UCLA loses. I don't know if I trust that to happen at all, but I would love to pick up some UCLA futures on the Monday show when we come back on here. But I don't know how accurate or how possible that is. I think that it's interesting with this UCLA team is I'm sure everybody's heard, but like the Ken Pom ratio to like March Madness winners, like every March Madness winner for the last 20 years has had all of these factors, and UCLA fits perfectly. More than that, they have a guy in what Jaquez, I don't know how to say his name, but 6th in the nation for Ken Pom, and so you have a true identity and a major scorer. And then you have 4 guys over 110 offensive rating. Like, this isn't an unbalanced team by any means. It's not a Jimmer Fredette. This is a team with guys in the back end and a front line guy trying to do his thing. So this game in particular, just to single out, I don't know. I think that Arizona is a tough matchup for anybody, but in the future, I really like this UCLA team overall.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I'm going to watch the game tomorrow. I'm not going to bet it, but in terms of who I like to go further, I definitely like UCLA a lot more than the Arizona team in a tournament setting. Now, here's a game I'm dying to get your thoughts on. I see Kansas, I see TCU, I see 8.5. Now, I've been betting for over 30 years. This feels like a game I take the 8.5, and I wonder why I'm down 22 at halftime. It just feels like that kind of game because I'm looking at this and I'm like, boy, TCU, that seems like value. I don't know. I know you're high on this Kansas team. Talk me out of TCU.
Yeah, it's weird. I was doing a show this morning and we didn't have a number either. And somebody said, guess the line you think it would be, and I would have made this 5.5. So 8. It is very strange. It's one of those ones I agree. Like, the games that always just slip right past the threshold that you have. Like, you wanted 6, but it's 6.5, 7.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I'm going to be smart. Like, I'm not going to lay this 6.5. That hook is going to give me today. I can feel it. You just don't lay it. And then they win by 30. And you're like, oh, there goes that. It feels like one of those games. But at the same time, I think you can't disrespect TCU's talent level by any means. I think Kansas is probably the best team in the nation. They just have a lot going for them. But the CCU team, they're scrappy. Like if you've watched these games, they're diving on the floor. They're reaching without fouling. They do everything that you want to be an upset team. So I would stay away from an 8. And yeah, if any outcome in this game wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
All right. Well, another game I'm interested because we talked about it Monday. We both were high on Baylor coming into the year. Things haven't gone quite the way I thought they would. They're starting to play better recently. They've won a few in a row here. Now they go to Oklahoma. It's always tough to play on the road. Oklahoma's not playing that great. Is this a buy low spot for Baylor around Pick'em at Oklahoma, or is this it's Saturday, it's a road conference game, stay away?
Listen, I don't want to be the guy to continue beating a dead horse, but what is that number? 145, 146? Yeah, I think at a 146, I'm going to have to make our third official play on an under in this Baylor game. We did it with Baylor, Texas Tech, and we hated it. And lost. They scored, 155. Texas Tech, I mean, the pace was there. The second half looked a lot better. The first half was just insanely fast. But that said, that was the Texas Tech team who had shown that they've run pace all year. This was kind of a spot where we were hoping for Baylor to slow down and Texas Tech to slow down at the same time. We really didn't get either of those. But that's not the case here. This Oklahoma team is already slow. They are miserably slow. I don't know if you've watched an Oklahoma game, but they are 322nd in the nation in tempo. And they're going to look to get the ball to Groves. They're going to look to slow it down. They have height. They have everything you could need. Their guard play is going to be significantly downgraded versus Baylor, so I think that Baylor is the side if you're going to take a side. But I think that in most cases, how they win this game is they don't allow the guards to control and dictate the game. They force these balls to Groves, and to get decent post play, in most cases, I imagine that you have to have some kind of setup offense in the half court, which is going to indict a slower game. So it's 146. I will bite again and hope that somehow I'm not wrong twice in a row on Baylor.
All right. Well, Baylor's starting to turn it around a little bit. We'll see if they can go into Oklahoma and get a big road win. I want to go to the ACC now. I'm gonna end. I'll end with your boys. I'll end with your boys at UAB. So we'll go to the ACC first. Two interesting matchups for me. North Carolina facing a good NC State team. This is going to be up, down, fast, everything you want. North Carolina going to be a decent favorite here. I don't know. I like NC State a little bit. You have any take in this game?
Yeah, I wish that it was at NC State. That's basically the only thing. But this is a really big rivalry. How far away is North Carolina to North Carolina State's campus? I believe it's a pretty close drive. Line's 5.5, 152.5. It's one of those ones I was telling you about. I would love a 6. I would love to get 6 points. 5.5, I feel like I lay off, and this is a 2-point game. It just feels like that. But I think that NC State has a talent level to compete with North Carolina. North Carolina is just basically a talent matchup issue because they have a lot of really big dudes, really physical guys. Baycott's grabbing I think he grabbed 19 rebounds. He's a menace. And so I think DJ Burns has his way. For the most part, he's able to do what he's done all year. So this just seems like a really good matchup in a rivalry game that's going to come down to the wire. The issue is 5.5. If this is a 3-point game with 30 seconds left, do you feel good about a 5.5? And so it's just a number. If it was 6.5, I would probably lay the NC State side. But here I have nothing. I'm curious your thought because you have a North Carolina jersey in the background. I know you've brought North Carolina a couple times, so you got a thought there.
Yeah, no, I have a futures on North Carolina. Like I said, wrapped up in the last leg of a parlay at 40-1. So yeah, I'd be rooting for them in March, and I agree. I think in March that's when they're going to be tough with those guys. I just like the guard play for NC State. I think that's going to give North Carolina trouble. I like NC State tomorrow. I think they're going to try to get this game fast, which a lot of people don't like to do with North Carolina. I think they have a little bit more depth. So yeah, I like the 5.5, but I agree with you. It'd be interesting to see where this number goes. Where do you think it's going to go? You think it's go down to 5 or go up to 6?
I don't know. This is a matchup that it would make sense for me for it to go down to 5 just for it to be a rivalry game in state. We're finally going to get an atmosphere that is college basketball. North Carolina just got North Carolina State just got a decent win versus Georgia Tech team. Not really thinking too much of it. North Carolina has Syracuse on deck. So, yeah, I don't know. This is the first weekend of some solid college basketball in the ACC. They've played Virginia during the week. They got Louisville in their last weekend game. So I don't think that they cared too much about that one. I would be more inclined to think that it goes down to 5.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep an eye on that line because I think NC State's live there. The other ACC game that I want to get your thoughts on, Duke, Miami. I don't like this Duke team at all. I don't have anything that I like about them, really. I think in tournament time, I think Miami's more dangerous with those guards. If they get going, they're going to be tough in the tournament. I don't see Duke going very far. This is a pretty small number for a Duke at home, laying 5. I think the market's kind of caught up with Duke. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I dislike Duke, but more importantly, I really like Isaiah Wong. I think we've talked about this on the show before, but I think Isaiah Wong is a really good basketball player. He's not elite, he's not anything, but I think that he can make a team really good. The unfortunate part is he just doesn't have a ton of pieces around him. He has talent, but he doesn't have pieces, and I think that this Duke team has enough bodies just to throw at him to force him into a tough game. But I will say, and it brings back to a story on the reason that I like Isaiah Wong so much. I keep going on tangents, but I apologize. But the reason I like Isaiah Wong so much is because I believe it was last year. It might have been 2 years ago at this point. I don't know. They all seasons kind of blend together at this point. But Isaiah Wong, I got injury info that he had sprained his ankle really bad in practice and wasn't going to play. And if he wasn't playing, they were down in the dumps. They basically had nobody. He decides to play with a sprained ankle. And I am aware that this is a bad sprained ankle. They're playing Duke, is the reference to this. And sprained ankle, comes on the floor. They're doing tip-off. He's limping around. Like, you can tell this kid is hurt. Has a big old taped-up ankle. Proceeded to – I scored, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe he had 25, 27, somewhere around that range, against Duke with a torn-up ankle and won outright. They beat Duke. And it's just props to the kid. He deserves it. He is a really good basketball player, one of the highest assist to turnover ratios in the nation, continuing to score for the team. So I really like to root for Miami. All of that said, I have no opinion. Duke has a lot of talent. They're going to throw it at Wong. Basically, if the other kids on the team can win, Miami's aside, but I just don't know if they have enough scoring output other than him.
Yeah, I would need this to be around 6 for me to bite. So that's one of those where you mentioned the number. Zach, the producer, has said that he has confirmed the plus 3,400 at FanDuel for Gonzaga. That's a heck of a number.
Zach also says we can track futures. I say we lock in that future on the show for a show future because you already have some futures on it, so it makes sense.
Yep.
I don't know, math wise, we don't want to do a full unit relative to a regular bet. I would assume. I don't know how you've been doing that, Zach.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how we're going to track how the tracking thing goes. I haven't seen it, so but a half unit.
Yeah, a half would be fine with me, Zach, if you want to do that. And then he also says, if you have another game you want to talk about, feel free. Apparently lines just dropped, so we're live on the show. I'm going to scroll through real quick and see if there's just any that pop out. If you have any other ones.
And you mentioned you like the Zags against Pacific. You like laying the points coming off a loss, right?
Yeah, it's at 12.5. I thought that it should open near 15, so 12.5 is plenty fine with me. I think that this is a team that's just talent versus talent output. You're talking islands different in this game. So can we get it's at 15.5 now, bookmaker. Yeah, that's correct. Zach, are we allowed to get a 12.5? Because, if so, we could, but it kind of feels dirty. I don't know. If we can get a 12.5, I would love Gonzaga anything under 14. 14 would probably be my cutoff there. But that said, I also like their future. So the worst case, just ride the future with us, and we'll be sitting nice there. All right, I'm going to make a quick scroll through BetStamp. Or Zach, if you want to scroll through on the screen so that I'm not on the back end, just scroll through the actual feed. But he said give him a second on that. So
what do you think about Clemson? Clemson, Virginia Tech.
I got an ACC with you as well. Let me pull up Clemson, Virginia Tech. I've been pretty low on this Clemson team. Virginia Tech,
that's why I asked.
Yeah. Virginia Tech is always a weird team to figure out because they shoot so many threes, and they've had injury issues. They're getting back to their pace. What is this number? Do you have the number in front of you? Clemson.
I
Looks like Clemson will be around a 3-point favorite. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird matchup. The issue is Basile tough enough to stop PJ Hall? PJ Hall is a little smaller, I believe. He probably have 2 inches on him. But I think Basile is kind of a sissy. If you've watched much of his basketball, he played for Wright State a couple years back. I loved the Wright State team when he was there, but I don't think that he matches up very well versus a driving Hunter Tyson and a big man who has some moves. He might not be tall, but he'll push you around. And PJ Hall, he can also shoot the three pretty well. They have the pieces to guard Virginia Tech's 3-point shooting, and it all just comes down to what is Basile going to do if he drops 20? Then it's Virginia Tech's for the taking. But I would lean towards Clemson, even though I really don't like this team overall.
And you said you had another ACC game you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, one that has kind of baffled me. It's one that I have no opinion on, and I'm curious your opinion. Is Virginia versus Wake Forest? They have Virginia as a 3-point favorite. 2 completely different styles of basketball. Virginia 360th in tempo, Wake Forest in the top 100 at 84th. Just a really tough game overall. Lined at 136.5, which feels to me like markets really don't know where to put this number either. It's a weird in between of like, we're not giving you the fast pace, but we're not going to give you the slow pace. 136.5, only 3.5 points off market average. Just seems like a number that they really don't know the number to play here. And curious your opinion on this matchup.
Yeah, this is a tough one because Wake Forest is a team I haven't really figured out yet this year. And Virginia is just Virginia. I don't like laying points with, but if you get 2.5 on the road in this game, I like this. This is probably wrong because it's a Saturday, but I kind of like a lot of short road favorites tomorrow for some reason. Like I watched that Stanford team last night. Listen, they stink. Oregon's won 2 in a row. I think Oregon's going to go into Stanford and wipe them. I know Oregon's inconsistent, but games like that, like I lean Virginia. But it's one of those, I just hate going against once you get into conference play and you get these home teams on a Saturday, the place is going to be packed. It's not a Tuesday night where sometimes it's hit or miss. So that's a stay away for me. I really don't have a great feel for Wake Forest.
And then we're going to backtrack a little bit. Zach says that Gonzaga is available at 12.5. So we're going to take a 12.5 for the show. It seems bookmakers already moved to 15.5. I would suggest and advise not to play 15.5, especially since there are 12.5s available. If you don't know what's available, be sure to check out the BetStamp app. Correlated, but not at all directed. BetStamp is the best place to be able to find all of the markets at once. And Zach is showing it on the back end as we continue to do these shows every Monday and Friday. So it's a great app, and they are interconnected companies. So shout out BetStamp there. Yeah, so we have lines for Saturday at this point. I'm going to take a quick scroll. Feel free to ask if you have any questions or like if you want to talk about any games in specific.
Give me your thoughts on the UAB North Texas. I mean, North Texas is coming off a loss of pride. I mean, listen, they whooped Rice 3 times last year, and I mean whooped. Rice scored 50, 44, and 43 points against North Texas last year in 3 blowouts. Rice on Thursday goes into North Texas, gets the upset as a big underdog. Good season for the Rice Owls team. Now it's North Texas traveling to your UAB Blazers. What's your early thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm frustrated I won't be home for it. It's going to be a great game. I will say KenPom ranks UAB's home court advantage like 60th in the nation, which is absolutely bonkers. If you think UAB, and listen, I love my Blazers, but if you think that we're getting that many people in the stadium, you're wrong. And I will say that the games that we do show up on our conference games, usually versus North Texas, Louisiana Tech, those teams, last year's North Texas game was crazy. They hit a buzzer beater in regulation to win. So I think that's in the back of the Blazers' mind. The big thing here is that Jelly has been out. I was hoping to have confirmation for the show that he would for sure be back. And I can say probably 89% sure I am confident he will be back tomorrow. I know 110% he wants to be there, and I'm pretty confident he's going to play. So I think that the 4 kind of shows that as well. I think that if Jelly was to be announced out, this probably goes to 1.5, 1, maybe even pick him. And for good reason. If Jelly is out of this game, North Texas wins. Eric cannot be the reason that we beat North Texas. They're too good for that. If Jelly's in, I think 4, 4.5, 5 is a good number. And obviously, I like my Blazers. But the main thing for me, and the angle that I would suggest to anybody who plays UAB games, is the team total over. So the numbers at 133, 4-point favorites. So you're looking at, 67? And UAB, in every single case, wants to score as many points as possible. That's the game they play. Any number under 70, I would like the team total for UAB over.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else you see there catching your eye?
Yeah, Kentucky opens up 4.5 versus
Yeah.
Texas A&M. Texas A&M has kind of sucked, but are we gonna say that Kentucky's good? No, I don't think so. I think that they haven't done enough to deserve that by any means. They're already getting steamed up to 5, so that's interesting. I really don't have an opinion on it. Kentucky has a talent output. They have coaches. They're built to be a really good basketball team. But we've also seen this team just get beaten by South Carolina. I'm not that quick to give them the throne. I would have made this line 2.5. So 4.5 was a little surprising, but at the same time, I don't bet against the less talent or against the more talented team in most cases, especially in a number like this. So nothing for me there.
Yeah, A&M has won 7 in a row, but you're looking at Northwestern State, Prairie View A&M, 2 games against Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, and LSU. So it's not like they're running the gauntlet there. So yeah, no, that I think it's going to be interesting to see if A&M can turn them over, because when Kentucky has a tendency to play sloppy sometimes, that'll be a big benefit to the Aggies.
Yeah, for sure. Kentucky's weird. It's one of those teams that I root for them to do good. Coach Cal's just been lackadaisical for so long. It doesn't seem like they've done much of anything for years at this point. They always have the best players, the John Walls, the DeMarcus Cousins, for years at this point. And when's the last time they've really made an impact in the tournament? I just don't feel like it was that they've been that relevant. So it'll be interesting there. 5 is an interesting number to open up with. I'm looking to see if there's just any that pop off the screen. And I apologize for this being live. They popped up. We know now, 5:30 Eastern that's the time we need to shoot for sure. So worth noting. But this Drake Evansville. So this is one we can talk about. The first one that catches my eye. Drake Evansville, 134.5 line. Evansville is one of the slower teams in the nation. They also are an miserable offense. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm literally just scrolling. But I'm well aware. Let's see. I'm going to pull them up. Now, Evansville is 340th in the nation. Push a high tempo, but this isn't the tempo that they want to play. If you've watched this Evansville team, they did get a new coach, but I don't think that they want to push a ton of pace. They're 348th in the nation in offensive efficiency. So I think that 134, is a bit high. I'm not going to bet it on the show. I would like to dive into these a little bit more, but an interesting one. I would have assumed that number would open more towards the 129 range, which is with their last matchup. Drake's last game opened up at 129. I think that's a fair number for them in most cases.
Okay, sounds good. So our official bets are: you have the under in Iowa, Ohio State. Gonzaga minus 12.5. I have Syracuse. I believe it's 1.5, laying 1.5. I'll probably take them on the money line, minus 120. So I get a little bit of a break when it's tied with 30 seconds to go. And then we have a Gonzaga future at plus 3,400.
Correct.
Is that correct?
I think that is it. Zach, do you have does that seem like we have all that's on the show? Here we go. So yeah, Syracuse. Oh, and we have an under in the Baylor.
Oh, under in the Baylor game.
Correct. Yep, I forgot about that one too. But yeah, sounds nice. A really big action-packed Saturday. It would be interesting. It looks like we got the future at 100 to win 3,400. I'm cool with that. It'll all balance out in the scheme of things. So yeah, really action-packed Saturday. I'm excited. I'm going to be sitting in front of the Circus screen all day Saturday, just enjoying a couple drinks and watching some college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's NFL playoffs, a big day of college basketball. I mean, if you threw some college football in there, I think they'll call that heaven. But it's going to be a great day of sports. We want to thank everyone for watching Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network, presented by Circa Sports. Bet like a pro, the world's largest sports book, right at your fingertips. Circa Sports. Experience big bet apps, better money splits, and best customer service and more. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Well, CC, it was a great show. I'm looking forward to these games on Saturday. We'll be back on Monday. We'll see how we did. We'll look at the futures market, and we'll preview next week's games. But best of luck this weekend. Happy birthday, and have a great time in Vegas.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.